What year is this? Now, I know you guys know I got a lot of things I could be reviewing. Dino King, the Transformers, G.I. Joe, Triple T Tank. If I want something that you guys really won't watch, I could do some more G.I. Joes or Vlogs. But the other day, this figure popped into my head. And I could have sworn that I reviewed it some time ago. But I went looking through my channel and nope, no review. So, without further ado, as I'm rolling it back and forth, we're taking a look at from Transformers Armada. Yes, we're looking at a 22-year-old figure. This is Supercon Optimus Prime with Overrun minicon. Now, for those of you who may not know, Armada was basically a return to form for Transformers. Figures were simplified back to nice, chunky, thick figures. Ball joints were replaced with universal joints, and gimmicks were put into the figures. This was after basically you had the failure of, at least in the United States, Beast Machines underperforming, and then Robots in Disguise really just being a palate cleanser. In Japan, Takara had not really had a successful Transformers line since the end of Victory. The Beast shows, while having a bit of a cult status, did not do well. And Car Robots, I'll be very honest with you, regardless of what anybody says, I will always believe either Car Robots was designed to be a next Brave series, or a lot of those designs were pinched from what was going to be a Brave series. I'm just saying that. I know it's been denied, but you know, I get the tingles and I just can't shake it. But while that line did okay, it had the same problem of overly complicated figures. Armada, as I said, went back to basics and was a. Don't quote hold me to this, but I believe that Armada to this date, 2024, was the most successful Transformers line in Japan since Generation 1. Maybe the movie lines, the first one especially, did well, but I'm not sure. So there's that. In the United States, this was basically, I don't, without having exact numbers, almost as popular as G1, like in terms of success. I mean, it was probably as successful, maybe. But now, we all know that there was the leader Optimus Prime that had the infrared transformation gimmick with the trailer, and it could combine the super robot mode, something we that was for really what we first saw with Power Master Prime, and then was really brought back with Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime. Apparently, rumor has it burned down at least the curtains in one person's house. I'll never not believe Bolt Matrix, but he's the only one. Well, later on, they did this smaller deluxe version that it can actually tow the trailer. There's a little hitch here, but it cannot combine. You don't have like a giant robot head hiding here in the crotch. But this was really the first time something like that was done. The idea being having a main character at a smaller, cheaper price point without really any fictional explanation. Unfortunately, apparently, this figure was repacked a lot and became a bit of a shelf warmer. Probably why when I picked it up, like maybe about 10 years ago now, I paid about 25 bucks for it. We'll talk about prices more at the end. Now, it has been repainted a few times. It was turned into Nemesis Prime, Scourge in Japan. It was painted white as an Ultra Magnus for a Kohl's Kmart, like I think it was Kohl's, like a Universe box set. It was actually repainted a couple times for Cybertron with instead of the minicon, it had a retooled Cyber Planet key with the minicon port. Um, and then there was I think there was like a Costco exclusive set that I don't know if that was for during Cybertron or during the first movie line. So it's gotten around. So there's different versions out there for you to try out. So this is the truck mode. As you can see, it rolls quite nicely. Now, I don't know if it was me or like when it was packaged this way originally, but when I took it out of the packaging to review this time, the legs were extended and the feet were flipped up. If that's how they were shipped, but then when I put it back in the packaging, it actually fit perfectly. So if you get this and and it comes out, make sure the legs are collapsed, that they're closed. There's no gap. There's closed up to here, and the feet are flipped down. But these are plastic wheels, solid, not little to no gappage. It's really a nice design. So I guess that's just enough for the overview. Let's pause, and we'll come back and take a look at the minicon Overrun. Okay, so I just pulled this off the rear of Prime, and this is Overrun in what it's called its attack mode. This is actually a weapon that Optimus Prime can use in robot mode. I guess you can say it's its ion cannon. But to go to its main vehicle mode, what you do is just rotate the peg around so the fin here comes up, turning the jet over, and then you can flip up the wings. You even have, excuse me, as I drop it, flip out landing gear so it'll sit flush. And you even have some wheels here that it can kind of roll along. Very nice. For the longest time, I would end up calling this Leader 1. Don't know why. I guess it was one of those things. Now, to transform it into its robot mode, what you can do is fold up the landing gear, fold back the wings like so, sort of like your... so we're going to come around this way. Lift up the arms here, and then unpeg them, and rotate them all around so they come to the sides like that, and then flip down the nose cone, and it ends up sticking straight out. Oh, and you can also separate the legs. And that's Overrun in its vehicle mode. Outside of the times it's been used in Cybertron, or it's the Cybertron version, Overrun has been repainted and included with Supercon Optimus Prime. Interesting, by the way, that they were still not using Deluxe, Voyager. Well, they weren't using Deluxe yet. I think they were using Scout and Voyager by that point. But there's its head, rather nondescript. Kind of has a Leader 1 vibe, but Leader 1 was Megatron's minicon. Once again, them trying to keep a hold of that GoBot IP. Unlike now with the minicons, some of them are heavily articulated, some of them aren't. With Overrun here, all it has is the side-to-side outward leg movement, and you can sort of rotate the arms, but unfortunately, it's blocked by that chest joint. I mean, you can kind of force it around, but I wouldn't do that much. There are some that are all ball joints and they're really articulated, but for what it has to do, I think that's the limitations of the articulation. Peg the legs together, bring the arms to a neutral point, flip the head up, bring the arms back around. The little posts right above the wrist will peg into the slots there. That will secure the arms. And then bring the wings back down, and you have Overrun back in its jet mode. And since we're going to be turning Optimus Prime into its robot mode, go ahead, flip that peg up and around, and then flip the wings around that way so it can get back into its weapon mode. So what we'll do now is we'll pause and we'll take a look at Optimus Prime. Okay, now for those of you who actually have the larger Leader Optimus Prime, this transformation is fairly similar. So the first thing you want to do is come into the front here and flip down this front section. And then you're just going to continue flipping this down all the way exposing the robot head. Now, this chest is actually accurate to the end of the series when Optimus gave up the Matrix, that while it's a molded Matrix chamber, there's no Matrix. So just continue closing that up, and this will peg into that chest, but this panel here doesn't peg into anything and just sits via friction. That's how toys were done back then. Next, what you can do is come around the back here, and we're going to extend the legs. And the easiest way to do that is just grab and pull. And they will snap into place. I think I got it all the way. Flip the feet down. Separate the legs. Make sure that's... Do I have it all the way? Just give it a little extra tug there. Yep, I think I have it all the way. Flip up this panel just a little to give it a little breathing room, but we'll talk more about this. Now, these forearms, they lightly tab into the side here. So what you want to do is bring those around, just like so. And then, like on the leader version of the toy, you're going to accordion these arm sections down. So up and down like so. Just like that. Really, it's mostly the work is done on that armpit joint. And then finally, what you want to do is slide these panels up to reveal the fists. I would bend them slightly just so they stay in place. Unfortunately, doing so kind of limits the elbow, but it is what it is. So there you have Optimus Prime in its robot mode. Very similar to the basic version that's on the leader class toy, but there's a little extra articulation. Now, I should mention the smokestacks here can remove, but they don't peg together. And you know, there's a reason why this character was called Bendy Prime. You do have a very expressive ball-jointed head, very unique. Now, keep in mind that with Armada, Aaron Archer, while going over to Japan, was heavily influenced by what he saw there. A lot of the different super robot shows, stuff like Gundam. There's a lot of Gundam-ish here in the feet, Gundam designs in the feet, but also like the Brave series. Really, Armada started off with the artists who worked on Brave, specifically Gogai Gar. There was a lot of homages there. Basically, when this character would join its fist and do a blast attack, that was really a wink and a nod to the Heaven and Hell attack from Gogai Gar. And remember, it goes on and on and on. It's Heaven and Hell. So you have that armpit joint there. You have a swivel here. You don't have a bicep swivel, but you do have a ball joint here that can go inward. That's useful for transformation. You have the bend there at the elbow. Same here on this side. You have a waist swivel. You actually have a bit of a swivel right there at the knee. Now, the legs are limited in terms of how far they can go forward due to the molding there right at the hip joint, which is kind of disappointing. You can try and force it. I wouldn't recommend it. You have a nice, almost 90-degree knee bend. Well, let me see. Yeah, about 90 degrees there. If you move the butt flap out of the way, the legs can go further back and obviously out to the side. Now, one thing I should mention is because of the waist articulation and that swivel, you might end up, when going to vehicle mode, having a little bit of a wobbly rear end. You might just have to go in and manually straighten out the joints. Now, with Overrun here, there's a few things you can do. First, there is storage here on the back. That butt flap has a minicon port, so you can store it there. That also works in truck mode. Of course, Optimus can hold it as a weapon. There's a grip right there, and of course, this can be held by other Autobots. So just pop it in. Now, on my copy, the right arm is unfortunately a little loose now with over time. But I mean, can basically hold it like that. But its main gimmick is obviously to work with Optimus Prime and its minicon power-up. So basically what you do is, right here on the top, you see this switch and lever. Locked in now because you need the minicon to depress that inner button. But once you have it in, you can start pushing it down and it'll spring up. And there's a bit of a punching gimmick. See if I can do this from the front. It's not crazy, but in the early 2000s, this really was still something. But what I like about the gimmick is that it doesn't really take away too much from the playability of Optimus. You still have access to all the articulation. I mean, you can really move the figure around, which was a novelty at a time, especially for something like an Optimus Prime figure, who, really were just big, chunky hunks of plastic, for better or worse. But as you can see, as I'm trying to pose it, yep, there you go. So you get something, you can do something like that, which looks completely odd. But, I mean, again, sure, it's kind of funny nowadays and laughable, but this kind of articulation, getting a figure, especially, again, an Optimus Prime in this kind of pose, would be virtually unheard of then. Now, if a figure couldn't do this, there would be outcries and riots in the street. So I guess that's about it. How about we pause and we'll come back with my final thoughts. I think one of the cool things is it's rather telling that how much, like, the difference and how designs have changed, that, this figure is taking up so much of my screen just from its mass. So there's something to be said about that. Now, I had mentioned at the beginning that when I first got this figure about 10 years ago, it was about $20. Nemesis Prime or Scourge, well, actually, it was Nemesis Prime. I did not see the Japanese versions. Was actually going for quite a bit more, and I think there was more of a demand for it than Prime. Maybe because this was so much of a shelf warmer back in the day. Who knows? Doing a quick eBay search before the review here, I can tell you the prices have gone up. In package, this goes anywhere between $35 up to $75. I didn't even look at completed listings. Loose, you can get it between $25 to $45 or $55. But that's depending on if Overrun is included, both smokestacks, the overall condition of the figure. I would say if you're ever at a convention or something, and if you happen to see it, in package, once you get around to the $75 price point, I would say it's not the best idea to open it by that point, because it really can affect the overall value. Again, I know that's not something that should be talked about, but it could. So maybe buy one if you can get it cheap in the packaging if you wanted to open it, or get one in packaging to keep and then try to find a completed loose one that has the gimmicks still working and the joints are relatively stiff. I'm going to say that these forearm panels have always been an issue, so you might not be able to find one that's rock solid tight in that regard. But other than that, I think it's a fun figure. I always wanted it. I really don't understand why I waited so long to pull the trigger on it. Oh, and by the way, this is a later release version. You'll notice very quickly as I turn I'll turn the back around. You have the lights here are done in yellow instead of silver, and it has that Autobot logo sticker. There's an earlier version that doesn't have the sticker, and the lights are in silver. So there's that. And in terms of the difference between this and the Japanese releases, I'm not 100% sure. I tried looking up that information, and I really couldn't find it, which leads me to believe that color-wise, it's basically the same. Here it was released as it was released as Standard Convoy, or STD. But yeah, I'm glad I have it. Kind of wish back in the day when I started collecting, I got more of the Armada figures. I was following reviews that were really panning a lot of them due to the gimmicks. And over time, I kind of realized that those sounded really fun to me, and that's really what I was more into. But unfortunately now, the prices are such that it's kind of cost prohibitive. But it's been fun with Legacy to get some of these reissues, and who knows, maybe with Legacy unfortunately ending, we're going into the Power of the Primes, or Age of the Primes, Age of the Primes. Maybe we can get a reissue of the deluxe Armada Optimus Prime. I mean, we got that deluxe G1 Optimus Prime. I think it would be kind of cool to have a deluxe Armada Prime. In fact, maybe they can start a thing where you get those deluxe versions of those classic Primes. Maybe do a deluxe Power Master Prime instead of of course, do the larger one first. But that basic, remember there was a deluxe Energon Prime that didn't combine but had a Power Links gimmick. Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime. That one's going to be a little tricky since it's a HasLab, so I don't know how people would feel about getting a cheaper, smaller version. They did do it in titanium, just saying. So I don't know, but I definitely would love to see a modern version of this with the minicon included, since that's really part of the weapon. But that's about it. If you like this review, please like, comment, and subscribe. While I will always appreciate the views, the likes, comments, and subscriptions, helps communicate to YouTube through the algorithm that my channel should be exalted and held upon high. As I always say, if you can, I also have a Patreon if you want to do the ultimate sign of support. That's www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. All I ask for is $1 a month, $12 a year. No thrills, no tears, no special rewards. All you're doing is helping me help you to help me help you bring figures like this to you. But as I always say, especially now at this time of the year as we enter the holiday season, you can't afford $1 a month or $12 a year. Your views are more than thanks enough. Patreon is just a cherry on top of an already generous sundae. And I really do mean that, and I want to say thank you to all of you who've supported me this year. I think the year started late in December with some, when we got that animated Prime early, and it's been, it kind of trailed off, but you've got those of you who stuck around. I do appreciate it. This really does, help with the hobby and, having things fun and, getting a little scratch on the side. God, I just dated myself. But that's it for the review. Once again, this is your old pal Chuck for SuperCon Optimus Prime. We will see you next time.